It's time to do Friday business. This will take us 55 minutes around the world of business, right here on Business Incorporated. Here's what we have prepared for you on the program. Kuwait and Egypt are strengthening their ties. They have new initiatives and agreements. Congratulations to Rwanda. They've achieved top ranking in global cybersecurity. And there's an update on that Ghana's first lithium mine. Welcome to the program. I'm Ini John Mekwa. We start from the global space as usual. It's metals we're doing first. Gold prices soared to an all-time high on Friday as the dollar weakened amid prospects of a United States interest rate cut. That's supposed to happen next week, while palladium has gained about 15% so far this week only. Let's look at the numbers at this time. Spot gold is up $2,565 per ounce after gaining 0.2%. U.S. gold features $2,593.40, up 0.5%. Look at other metals at this time. Spot silver is also up. Green markets we have this afternoon, $29.93, gain 0.1%. Platinum, 1% up, $986.60. Palladium, there you go, almost 1% gained for the week, 0.16% for today, $1,048.06. Now the dollar fell to a 1-week low, making gold less expensive for other currency holders. The International Monetary Fund also has been talking. They said it was appropriate for the Fed to begin a long-awaited monetary easing cycle. That's expected next week. We've been counting down to this interest rate cut, and traders now are seeing 43% chance for a 50 basis point reduction in that September 18 meeting, and 57% odds for a 25. So we're counting down to that, and of course, it's a major market driver at this time. Still in the global space now, we're looking at oil. Prices rose on Friday, extending a rally sparked by output disruptions in the United States Gulf of Mexico, where Hurricane Francine has been forcing producers to evacuate platforms before it hit the coast of Louisiana. We saw a 32-cent gain for Brent and almost the same amount for WTI. So Brent, $72.29 a barrel. After that, 0.44%, that's about 32 cents. WTI, $69.31. That's after gaining about 34 cents, 0.49%. That's it in percentage. Of course, Hurricane Francine is a major driver of that. And then there's some gains. This is retained to the close of trade of today. We see both benchmark would have broke a streak of weekly decline. Remember, this same week we had Brent drop to less than $70. That's very unusual. Normally we'd see it above $80. Now we come to Nigeria. One of the consequences of the flood that's still a reality in Maiduguri, the capital of Borno State, is the loss of farmland and crops. And crops are at the peak of the harvest season. According to a farmer in the state and chief executive officer of Mumana Agro Venture, Garuba Amid Difu, the losses could be minimized if quick steps to implement irrigate farming is adopted at this time.
Then against the harvest now, I think the government needs to encourage into irrigation farming now, because almost everything has been lost. And you can imagine most farmers there, we only operate on extensive. We only do our inputs, then harvest at the end of the day. Most of the farmers there. Now, with the intervention of the government or any organization to actually encourage farmers now to go into irrigation. Because if you go through the history of Alo Dam, is actually constructed because of irrigation purposes. So if after this flood, if the government and any organization or individual will encourage to go into irrigation farming, then I think it's going to augment the effect of this flood in respect to our harvest and produce.
That was the conversation we had on Business Morning. Let's hook up with our correspondent who is there and has been keeping us up to date with happenings right there in Maiduguri. Ayola Kasim joins us from Maiduguri. Hi, Ayola. Good afternoon. Been a busy day for you. I know you started the day with us. You had morning brief, you had sunrise daily. Now you're here, quite busy. But what have you been noticing? What's the summary of what you've seen since you arrived in Borno State?
Yeah, good afternoon, Ine. Nice to see you. Well, we've been living on soda, sugar, basically, so that to keep us going. But many people here, from what we've seen so far, they're just living on a hope and a prayer. They want something to be really done for them. Now you can see we are at the State Specialist Hospital because we understand there was this story about it being inundated with patients coming in and out. But what we've seen is the hospital is actually operating with like 30% of his workforce. That's what they are doing here. And the oxygen plant is completely shut down. Water has already made it they have to shut it down. They can't operate it right now. And then just across the road from here is the main market. They said is a Monday market, they call it, and it was down. Just to come to business and how this is affecting business. We've seen yam farmers on the road, yam sellers on the road going on, but most of them said that their markets have been washed by, most of them has been washed up by the flood as well. The market here is closed. Many food seller restaurateurs are actually complaining that things are a bit expensive now, or they're scarce, that they don't have because the market was not open on Monday. And when we spoke to the Commissioner for Education and Innovation and Technology earlier today, he said to us that the main focus as of now is the humanitarian effort in the state. That while they would love to help the business owners and all, but they need to make sure that people get their homes back there, and then we'll now talk about how to sustain their livelihood. But they need to have shelter, which is a basic thing. And that's the situation now, as you've heard.
Yeah, and in earlier reports, we did see some makeshift markets. Obviously, people still have to live and eat, to be alive and all of that. We saw some makeshift market. The report we had yesterday, a cyclist saying they are collecting more as fare because obviously there's a squeeze on supply. What have you seen in these areas and in makeshift market? How are people getting by? Is it the government that's providing food for them? Are there still some pockets of markets or transactions that people are carrying out to be able to survive, at least for food?
Yeah, people are actually, even at the camp, people there, they're having this little, these petty traders. You see them at every corner, trying to make ends meet themselves instead of getting on the street to beg. Some still have some dignity, and they're trying their best to make sure they don't lie in the street to beg, because the situation, as we showed this morning, at the IDP camp is not really okay. The state government is saying that they are doing their best to make sure they provide food, that they are the ones providing the food as of now. But then the truth of the matter is it's not enough. You have something that can feed about 1,000 people. Meanwhile, the people there in one camp is over 2,000, more than 5,000 in some cases. They're giving different accounts, saying that, some people, they come, they can't be trusted. Some people will come in 3-4 times, changing their clothes. But then we told them, is there not something that the government should do to make sure that equal and fair treatment of everybody? Because let's be honest, livelihoods are...
Hello, Yola, can you? Okay, there's a correspondent there in Maiduguri, giving us up to date on some of the efforts of the government. She was in the camp earlier. I think now she says she's in a hospital building. Hi, Ayola, are you back? Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Ayola?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Yes, I
okay.
can hear you.
Okay, please go ahead. We lost you for a bit.
Yes, I can hear you. Okay, sorry, it's because the weather is changing. In the morning, we're so excited for the sun. I can't believe I can be excited about the sun. But I was excited this morning, but then...
Yeah, that's frozen again. As Ayola said that the weather is changing. I did see her earlier today. She had a hat on because she said the sun was really hot. Now, I hope we don't have another downpour because that's going to worsen the situation. Ayola, you're just expressing your excitement. I said I saw you earlier. I think that was on Sunrise Daily when you had your hat on because of the sun. But you said that's changing now.
Yeah. Yes, I had to put the car because the weather is now very cloudy. We're told it might rain anytime now. And I hope it doesn't rain, really, because we need the water to recede because people need to get their livelihood back. They need to feed their family. They need to get back on their feet. And so when this happens, so that doesn't affect our own food security. Remember, it's the small-scale farmers, those that the farmers that feed our economy. So we need them back on the farms. We need them to be able to sell their products, their produce, and so that we all can have food. Yam in Lagos is very expensive. Here is very cheap. And if the water washed the whole thing away, then we are in for a very, very bad time.
Yes, honestly, that's true, and a worrying situation, Ayola, right there. But we'll leave you to continue your findings. I know we'll have a comprehensive report from you later tonight, but do stay safe amidst all of this. All right, so you just stay tuned to Channels Television and you get all the details and the information and subsequent broadcasts all through today and, of course, tomorrow with Ayola Kasim right there in Maiduguri, the capital of Borno State. Now, let's take a break here on Business Incorporated. When we come back, we'll have other segments of the program waiting for you to stay with us.
We live in an era of massive innovation, true ideas that impact every industry and society, cutting-edge technology that gives you a glimpse of the future, intuitive minds that meet the demands of a revolution of talent. The future of enterprise lies in the digital world. It's full of questions and yet solutions. Join us on Tech Trends as we bring you the finest blend of technology and the latest happenings in the tech space. Tech Trends, the tech edge you need.
Welcome back to watching Business Incorporated on Channels Television. We head to the markets now with Aniti Edit. Aniti, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, Ini. Okay, yesterday we saw the market making a rebound into positive territory, and of course that rebound is still being sustained at intraday. We'll get to see the numbers as well as the numbers of other major markets on the African continent as well as other indexes around the world. Okay, so now let's start off on the African front, where we see the Nigeria stock market, the all-share index of Nigeria's stock market in the green. It says yesterday it climbed into the 97,000 points, and of course very much holding on to that level although it had risen up far above this level. But thanks to the bargain hunting of some listed equities yesterday, we see the market holding on to that 97,000 points. At some point, it was struggling in between the 96,000. Of course, bargain hunting and putting your money where your mouth is what lifted the market to that 0.13% at intraday. And then for the JSE Stock Exchange, we see the market has receded all the way from the 84,000 points, just a little bit below the 82,000 points, and at intraday 0.39% is what the market printed. And of course, we're looking out for how it ends Friday's trading session. And for the other markets on the African continent, we see the EGX for Thursday, as well as the Nairobi Stock Exchange All Share Index. That's for Kenya, one in the green and the other in the red for the close of Thursday's trading session. So that's it for the market for the African continent. And then let's move over to the fixed income market, where we're talking about yesterday's, a little bit about yesterday's performance for the fixed income market, where we see treasury bills on one side bearish, and then the bonds market a little bit on the profit selling side, and for the OMO market. Then, of course, we're also looking at Nigeria's debt market, where we see the expectation of next week. First of all, we're expecting that the domestic bond, the domestic debt, as well as the foreign debt report is due to be out by the National Bureau of Statistics. Maybe today, but we'll look at how that is applying into Nigeria's debt market, and of course also taking a look at the intraday market numbers for the equities, for the fixed income markets. And now let's bring in Adeola Aremu as a fixed income dealer with FSDH Merchant Bank. Okay, maybe he's not ready for now, but we'll get back to him and, of course, have him give us some up-to-date information about the fixed income market. And now let's move over to the Middle Eastern markets for the indexes, for the stocks there. Dubai and the Abu Dhabi, the stocks on this list, on these exchanges, we see so much of fair value transactions going on there, and the markets are very much in the green, 0.34% at intraday. That's for the Dubai exchange, as well as the Abu Dhabi 0.8% intraday for that market index. But for the other parts of the Middle East, Saudi Arabia 0.65%. For the close of Thursday's trading session, 11,842.56. And for the Qatari Stock Exchange, we see Thursday's close 1.47% in the green at 10,398.32 for that market. So basically for the Middle Eastern market, it was green, one for Thursday and the other for intraday Friday's trading session for that market. Okay, so now let's take a look at the Asian markets first. Obviously, Asian markets, the stock indexes there, they were mostly mixed. And of course, looking at the inflation data out of India, which is one of the region's biggest economies there, the mixed picture you see here, we saw some profit taking on the size of Japanese stock exchange there. The Nikkei 225 down by 0.68% for the close of Friday's trading session at 36,581.76. For the Kospi, we see the impact of that 5-day strike action by the workers at Samsung. Samsung has its plant in central India, and of course, we didn't see much of that impact taking toll on the South Korea's stock exchange index, although there's a strike is happening within India there. But we see the market not unfazed on that strike by several hundreds of workers within that country. And for the Hang Seng index, we see a 0.84% uptick, 17,383.37 for that market. And of course, we also see for the Shanghai Stock Exchange, for the Shanghai Composite, which is in China, we see a kind of a mixed picture there. But we heard that at some point, the consumer confidence in that country is beginning to wane, in contrast with what in the relationship that they have between the US, the two biggest economies. So at some point, the confidence level in between the relationship between the US and China is beginning to wane, and we see if we can have Shanghai Composite Index there, you see it in the red, 0.48% for the close of Friday's trading session. And for the Nifty 50, that's for the India Stock Exchange, there we see 0.13% pullback. And this is because at some point we saw that investors reacted to the August inflation figure out late on Thursday, which showed that the consumer price index of that country, it rose to about 3.65% year on year, and rising from a 5-year low, which it was initially projected to be at about 3.6%. So that's just slightly above that projection, and also beating of an expectation of a 3.5 from the economies that are polled around that market. So that's it for the markets here. And now let's take a look at the U.S. stock markets. Where we see the U.S. stock markets, the equities futures there rising. Dow Jones Industrial Average 0.58%, 41,096.77. That was the last tracking that we had there. The S&P 500 4,995.76. All in the green. The Nasdaq, we saw Nvidia making some imprints, positive imprints, and lifting both the S&P as well as the Nasdaq 1%, which is what the market is looking ahead of the opening bell by 2:30 Nigerian time. Now, what is Wall Street expecting for later today? Wall Street is today they will be looking towards the August import prices data, which is due out in the US sometime around 9:30. 9:30, 10 o'clock later today, and as well as the preliminary consumer sentiment figures for September, which is also scheduled to be released on the world's biggest economy later today. So far, the market as we've had first the consumer price index and then the producer price index. So these other indexes, and they are all coming way ahead of the Tuesday and Wednesday Federal Reserve's meeting, which is having all the attention of global stock markets as well as global central banks around the world. So now let's catch a glimpse of the closing the trading performance of Wall Street, and we have our Washington correspondent Mario Bird with those summary.
The U.S. stock market was a bit up on Thursday as the Dow Jones was up at 0.6%, the S&P 500 up at 0.7%, and the heavy tech Nasdaq up at about 1%. This has many investors excited and hopeful that this means a steady economy in the next days and weeks ahead, as it is expected that there will be interest rate cuts in the next few days. There's much anticipation around the Federal Reserve announcing a potential 0.25% rate cut. This could mean much for the future of the U.S. economy, and especially as people are looking to purchase in the near future.
Our Washington correspondent Mario Bird with a close summary of Wall Street performance for Thursday. And now we were talking about the fixed income market, not just fixed income markets, where we see so much to digest from yesterday and today, as well as the outlook for intraday and for next week, which of course is going to be a holiday shortened week. And then let's bring in Adiola Aremu, fixed income dealer with FSDH Merchant Bank, for some of this what to expect, and then a recap of the activities at the fixed income market. Thank you for joining us, Aremu.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon.
Okay. So now let's start first. Just give us a recap of yesterday's trading at the fixed income market. First, for the treasury bills, were of course coming the morning after that auction that we had. So how did investors react, to some of these numbers from the treasury bills auction?
Thank you. So in the treasury bill auction that happened, we saw that DMO actually intervened. DMO actually sold 162 billion that was on offer. We saw subscription of about 563 billion, which was 3.5 times the size that was on offer. What that meant also was that we saw stop rates actually reduce across board, particularly on the 1-year bill to from 18.94 to 18.59%, as well as the 91-day bill that closed at 16.6
16.63, as well as the 182-day bill that closed at 17%, I beg your pardon. And now, coming into yesterday, we saw that there wasn't a lot of demand because of where market opened. System liquidity was actually in a repo of about 591 billion, and that kind of stifled demand across board in yesterday's treasury bill space. In the bond space, we saw that yields actually started to expand. The reason for that is because one, system liquidity that was tight, as well as the increase in expectation of inflation for the September figures because of the rise in PMS prices.
Okay, so now that takes me to my second question with you. Yes, we know that these debt instruments is actually where the government gets some of this funding, and at the same time, Nigeria's Nigeria's debt level is currently at 121.67 trillion naira, and that number is expected to rise if the National Bureau of Statistics releases that number maybe any minute from now. So now, what do you expect if it comes in higher? What do you expect the impact to have on the fixed income markets?
Right, thank you. I think that figure that you've mentioned, yes, 121.67 trillion for Q1 figures. We expect that it will rise by the time we see the Q2 figures. However, if you try to break down the composition of that increase, what you find out is that a large proportion of it will come from the FX side, from the external borrowing side, and that is because of where FX has been over, Q1 and Q2. For instance, NAFEX was at 1,330 naira to a dollar as at the end of Q1, but that figure has increased to 1,488 naira to a dollar as at the end of Q2. So what I expect is that we'll see at least an increase to about 62 trillion if we convert it to the naira for the Q2 figures, because in terms of the trend of the foreign borrowings, right, you'll see that over the last 3-4 quarters, it's actually been very stable at around 42.1 and 42.5% levels, 42.5 and $42.1 billion, right? So the actual increase is, in the exchange rate and not particularly in terms of the borrowings. So even if we see an uptick, our expectation is that we'll see it rise to about 132 to 135 trillion by the time we see the figures later today. But as I've mentioned, most of that uptick comes from the external borrowing side, and then just a little of about 4 to 5 trillion on the domestic borrowing over Q2.
Well, I think we'll leave it there, and of course, expect that the MBS should release that report later today, or maybe by extension next week. But we do keep our eyes out for your expectation for the country's total debt for the second quarter. Thank you so much for your time on our show.
Thank you.
That was Adeola Aremu giving us details of the fixed income market and, of course, what to expect for Nigeria's total debt stock, which, of course, is continuing to climb. And that number is expected to go higher in the second quarter.
All right, Anisi, thank you so much. Obviously, with the successful dollar bond, our first domestic dollar bond, that will continue to climb, because our analyst said yesterday it will cost the government about $1.5 billion, repaying that 900 million, and don't forget they're still going up to $2 billion for that. But thank you so much for that analysis. All right, now let's take a break. When we come back, we'll head to Berlin. Yesterday, while we're counting down to interest rate cuts in the United States, the European Central Bank actually cut its rates. So we'll talk about that after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to Watching Business Incorporated here on Channels Television. We head to Berlin now, where the European Central Bank cuts its interest rate by 0.25 percentage point. That happened on Thursday. That brings the main interest rate down to 3.5%. And let's have more on the implications of this with Chiponda Chimbelu. Chip, good afternoon. So what does this rate cut mean?
Thanks for having me. Well, this rate cut means that the high interest rates that the EU has had to lower inflation are working. ECB President Christine Lagarde said that the ECB target inflation of 2% is now in sight. Last month, inflation was down to 2.2% in the Eurozone, and it has come down from a record 10.6%, which was reached in October 2022. So high interest rates have been able to slow down the pace at which prices are rising in the Eurozone. And it's quite likely that ordinary consumers here in Europe will now notice that prices are rising at a much slower pace than they were, say, 2 years ago. And the good news is that for anyone who wants to take out a loan, it will get cheaper.
Yeah, but what does this mean for the economy?
It could help investment. The fact that interest rates have been at their highest levels in years has put off companies from taking loans. And that, of course, means that we have seen a lower level of investment in Europe in recent years. And that has, of course, led to slower economic growth. In fact, the Eurozone economy is only projected to grow 0.8% this year. The ECB now has to strike a balance between ensuring that inflation falls to its target inflation rate and remains there without hurting the economy. While the market bets are that the central bank will again cut rates in December, Lagarde didn't give any clue yesterday about when the ECB will be cutting rates. Meanwhile, European policymakers will most likely be looking out for more data. And they'll also be looking to see whether the US Fed cuts rates next week. That, of course, could affect the value of the euro versus the dollar. And it would, of course, have an impact on European exports.
Yeah, and I bet investors are also looking that way too for decision making.
European markets are expected to make gains today. That, of course, comes after the rally on Thursday following the ECB interest rate cut. And the focus is also shifting to the US. The Fed is expected to lower interest rates by 0.25% next week as well. That, of course, would bring down the benchmark interest rate to 5% to 5.25%. Now, more recent data this week suggests that the US Central Bank is winning the battle against inflation. There was some concern last week after Friday's big miss on U.S. jobs creation. Now, on the data front, Eurozone industrial production is due today, and later the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report will be released.
All right, Chip, thank you so much for that, and have a great weekend. Now let's come to our continent, Africa. Starts from Ghana, where Atlantic Lithium Limited, the African-focused lithium exploration and development company, has announced that Ghana's Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, has granted an environmental permit for its flagship Eyowa lithium project. The approval from the EPA marks a critical step forward for the Eyowa project, which is poised to become a major contributor to Ghana's mineral sector. The permit follows the submission of a detailed mine and process environmental impacts statement incorporating feedback from both the EPA and local communities impacted by the projects. Still in the solid mineral space, Statistics South Africa is reporting a 1.4% year-on-year decline in the country's mining production for July. That's the biggest negative contributors negative contributors were iron ore, that was down 19%, other metallic minerals, which dropped by 36.2%, and gold, which decreased by 3.5%. We have John Perry, who is the principal survey statistician at the Stats SA.
Other minerals that performed poorly in July include copper, gold, platinum group metals, and diamonds. On the positive side, the mining industry produced more manganese ore, chromium ore, nickel, and coal. Manganese ore was the largest positive contributor, rising by 27% year-on-year and adding 2 percentage points to overall growth. On a month-on-month basis, season-adjusted mining production declined by 0.9% in July 2024 compared to June 2024. This marks the third consecutive month-on-month decline in mining activity.
In this year's Global Cybersecurity Index report, the International Telecommunications Union has ranked Rwanda first year in global cybersecurity, attaining a score of 95 to 100%. Rwanda was grouped with 46 other countries in a selection reserved for role model nations that demonstrate the ideals of all 5 cybersecurity pillars. 5 of the 46 are African countries: Rwanda, Mauritius, Ghana, Kenya, and Tanzania. They join global leaders such as Japan, the United States, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, and South Korea, as well as others. ITU indicates that states' Global Cybersecurity Index is a trusted benchmark that measures the commitment of countries to cybersecurity at a global level. Rwanda's placement in the first tier is a testament to the government's dedication, according to government officials, to building a secure and safe cyberspace, and cybersecurity is crucial for a country's development and economic prosperity, providing protection from dangers in the digital world. Now, the United Kingdom government has unveiled a significant increase in the financial requirement for international students, marking the first adjustment since 2020. Effective January 2nd, 2025, the new financial data will impact students planning to study in the UK, reflecting an increase in cost of living expenses, travel-based reports. And then this change, as stated, comes as part of a broader effort to align financial requirement with current economic conditions. Reports inform that to secure a student visa, international students must now demonstrate that they have sufficient funds to cover their living expenses for up to 9 months. The requirements differ depending on where or whether the students will be studying in London or elsewhere in the United Kingdom. Studying in London, students will need to show evidence of having about £1,483 per month against its previous £1,334, which now translates to about 11.2% increase. Studying outside London, students must now prove that they have £1,136 per month against its previous of £1,023, signifying an increase of 11.1%. The Egyptian government has announced an extension of the amnesty period for foreign nationals residing in the country illegally for an additional year. A statement issued by the Egyptian cabinet indicates that the government approved a draft decision by the Prime Minister to extend the period for regularizing status of foreign residents in the country illegally for an additional year, in accordance with the controls and regulations stipulated in Prime Minister's decision number 3326 of 2023. The original deadline for foreigners to regularize their status was set to expire September 30, but it's now been extended for another year. The Egyptian state and its relevant agencies had previously asked all foreigners residing on its territory to go to the General Administration of Passports, Immigration and Nationality to regularize their status, renew their residency, and obtain a smart residency card to ensure that they can benefit from all government services provided to them. The government also urged its foreign guests who were exempt from paying residency fees to go to the General Administration of Passports, Immigration and Nationality to register their data and obtain an exemption card in implementation of Prime Minister's decision. The Egyptian state indicates that it will stop dealing with and providing services to foreigners exempted from residence permits who have not obtained exemption cards from the General Administration of Passport, Immigration and Nationality, as they were given a final deadline to obtain these cards, which ended on September 30, 2024. Now, we're still in Egypt now, but President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has issued a presidential decree to approve Egypt's membership at the Fund for Export Development in Africa, that's FEDA. It aims to create social and environmental benefits by investing in infrastructure, manufacturing, financial services, agribusiness, and technology. The fund was developed to promote Afreximbank's mission of reshaping Africa's trade and export sectors and bridging their funding, financial instrument, sectoral and structural gaps. As part of Egypt's vision to strengthen its presence in Africa, Cairo hosted third Intra-African Trade Fair in November 2023. We're still in Egypt now. Norway's Katek has signed a 25-year PPA with Egyptian Electricity Transmission (EETC) for a 1 gigabyte solar and 100 megawatts, 200 megawatts battery storage hybrid project in that country. Stratec said that it has signed a mandate letter with several development financing institutions for concessional financing. The company expects to reach financial close with the lenders and start construction of the project in the first half of 2025. Under the terms, the agreement with the state-owned EETC will be responsible for engineering, procurement, and construction, assets management, as well as operations and maintenance services for the project. Stratec claims to have a portfolio totaling 4.7 gigawatts of renewable energy plants in operation and under construction across 4 continents. In August, the company sold stakes in solar plants in Rwanda and South Africa, which it said would help finance further growth opportunities. We're out of Egypt now. In Zimbabwe, the government has promised steady supply of medicines in the country starting from next month to address the current shortage of drugs in that country. Zimbabwean hospitals are hit with shortages of medicines and equipment, leaving many patients stranded. Patients are increasingly relying on private pharmacies which charge exorbitant prices out of reach of the ordinary citizen. In a question and answer in the National Assembly recently, the Deputy Minister of Health, Suleiman Quinde, said that the government will eradicate the shortage of medicines. Pharmaceutical companies in Zimbabwe rely heavily on imported medicines, which they sell in foreign currency. And then away from Zimbabwe now, we see Kuwait and Egypt are deepening their bilateral relations with a series of new initiatives and agreements aimed at enhancing cooperation across various sectors. This evolving partnership marks a new chapter in the long-standing relationship between the two Arab nations. Recent high-level meetings between Kuwaiti and Egyptian officials have led to establishment of several collaborative projects focused on economic, cultural, and security interests. The most notable agreements include enhanced trade partnership, joint infrastructure projects, and cooperative efforts in energy and technology. In addition, the two countries are embarking on a major joint infrastructure project that will see Kuwait investment supporting the development of key Egyptian transport and energy sectors. And this project aims to enhance regional connectivity and support Egypt's ambitious development goal. In East Africa now, President William Ruto has launched the Nairobi River Regeneration Project under the Climate Works Matani initiative. During the launch, Ruto notes that a clean and revitalized Nairobi River means improved public health, enhanced local business opportunities, and a safer environment for the residents. Ruto stated that the project will focus on restoring the river's natural beauty, eliminating pollution, and creating green spaces that would uplift surrounding communities. The president said that the initiative is a bold step towards a sustainable future, ensuring that both present and future generations benefit from a cleaner and greener Nairobi. Climate Works will provide more than 200,000 jobs for the youth, with 20,000 youth opportunities in Nairobi alone. The Tanzanian government is investing 3.9 billion shillings in infrastructure development at the Ibanda Kiara Park in Kagera region, aiming to unlock the potential of the Western tourism circuit. The Conservation Commissioner at Tanzania National Parks, TANAPA, Mr. Musa Juma Kuji, revealed that the substantial investment during a visit to the park. The funds will be used to significantly enhance tourist facilities and park operations. The development plans include constructing a state-of-the-art tourist entrance complex and modern staff housing in the Kifurasa area of the park. The project encompasses several key improvements, including a new park gate equipped with essential facilities such as ranger and accountant offices, and supports a comprehensive road network. Now let's head to the crypto space. Something interesting going on there. Mr. Donald Trump is in the news. Is set to launch a project, his son's project actually, by Monday. I wonder how the market will react to this over the weekend up until Monday. But we'll talk about that in a bit. Let's look at the numbers right now, see what the price of Bitcoin is at this time. We see it's a slight movement and still below 60,000, but well, it's a green after all. It doesn't matter how many green, yeah? So 0.02% increase in the last hour or so. 58,100.52 is the price of Bitcoin at this time. Ethereum is also down slightly, very slight, 0.01%, $2,354.29. BNB is in the red. Ton is green. A lot of movement around Ton these days. Cardano, DOT, Doge. Mixed color we see right here. So let's talk about some of the other things, the headlines. Like we told you, there you have the sentiment at this time. It's a fair market trading at this time in the crypto space. But let's see the headlines there. So we did see that Mr. Donald Trump is set to launch that project on Monday. Former President Donald Trump saying that it belongs to his son, Donald Jr. and Eric, and it's called World Liberty Financial. It's a crypto platform that'll be controlled by the son. I said this, of course, election in the United States about 50 days ago. We know that Trump is a pro-crypto candidate, so I wonder how this will, play up. I don't know if you watched that debate with the Democrats, but the Republican former president has mixed his political and business interests and marketed sneakers and all of that. Now he's going into crypto. Let's see how this will shape that election. Also today, Binance announced a launch poll for Hamster. Hamster, of course, I think Hamster Combat, counting down to September 26, has been in the news and catching a lot of attention and all of that. But now let's speak to Solomon Amunde, and hear his comments and observations on these and a whole lot more. Hi, Solomon, good afternoon.
Afternoon, Ini.
So this Trump, it's not his project, it's his son's project, but obviously Mr. Trump has owned it, and we wonder 50 days to election, which way or the other this could push the market.
Yeah, I don't think it will have so much impact in the price action of Bitcoin currently, because we're already at a resistance zone, which is around $58,000. So that's why we didn't see much of an impact. But I feel that was a welcome news. It just means President Trump is showing his commitment to what he would do once he becomes the new elected president of the United States of America. So that's just what he's showing. So I think that's a positive move on his own side to show and reassure the crypto community that he's in for them, and he'll be ready to do the needful once he gets in, if elected as the US president.
So do you think this will make crypto regulation easier, a softer landing for crypto, or do you think this is just a way to get some political points and after election is over, we hear some silence?
I think it would definitely make things easier for the crypto ecosystem, which hasn't had it easy for over the last 4 years. But I think it would definitely make things easier if he is elected as the president. So I don't think he's just making false promises. I think he means it, actually.
All right, we'll see. So Binance has announced a launch poll for Hamster. What does this mean, for those Hamster fans, and they've been investing their energy and effort and data? What does it mean for them?
It's actually a very welcomed news, and the hamster community, they are very excited about it. I mean, most persons have been anticipating and waiting for this. And personally, I feel it was a no-brainer. It was just a matter of time because Hamster is one of the most successful Telegram mini app. And we also saw the owner of Telegram make a comment about them 2-3 months ago. So it was a no-brainer. It was just about time. So I think it's a very, very good move. It's a positive move. Binance has shown commitment in listing most community-related projects, and I think they should continue doing so. So it's a welcome development.
So what does it exactly mean for Hamster, fans? I don't know how you call them, the community. This connection with Binance, what does it ease for them? What does it mean for them?
Majorly, it's more like an endorsement that they were never wasting their time farming the Hamster tokens. So it shows belief that they can also do the same with some other similar Telegram mini apps that would be released or some that already existed. So it's a reward for the time spent on the platform for the past 6 months or thereabouts, and also people that have spent so much money trying to farm the Hamster token. So it's actually a positive news for them. And it also means that the token would perform well once it's listed, because we know Binance has the most liquidity in all centralized exchanges. So it means that the token will surge positively, and they are optimistic that they'll make so much money from it.
And this countdown to September 26, is it too late for some people to start farming? Is there any way to optimize the potential benefits ahead of September 26?
Yeah, for those with deep pockets, it's easy for them to take advantage of this, and because what they just need to do is send some funds to Binance and farm it on the Binance pool that they created. That's like the fastest and easiest way to be able to make free money. Like, we already have some persons that have deposited about $10,000 and they are farming the project already. So that's like the easiest way. But for those that can't afford to move over that amount of liquidity to Binance and lock it up in the pool, they can choose to keep playing the game and looking for ways within the game to be able to farm the tokens. That's just majorly the best way out of it.
All right, Solomon. Finally, now, where do you see the price, Bitcoin? Which way do you see it going this weekend?
Yeah, I think we're seeing the month of September. We are already at mid-month. We have seen the resistance at around 58,400. So I'm expecting Bitcoin to retrace to about $56,000 again over the weekend to like Monday. I'm not expecting it to go above $59,000. I'm not expecting that currently. So I expect a retracement.
All right, retracement is expectation from Solomon Amunde. Thank you so much for your views this afternoon.
Thank you, Nia.
So that's it on the program. Thank you so much for being a part of Business Incorporated, Business Morning all through. Still have another one to go tomorrow. That will be with Laddie Williams. Will be on with you 7 p.m. on Capital Market. So you don't want to miss that. A summary of happenings in the market and some investment tips for your kids. For me, I'll see you tonight, 10 p.m. for the stock market report, and then we'll start the circle again on Monday. So I'll try to have a great weekend. You do too. Have some rest.